link Darth Vader in here with Luke. So now it becomes a smaller story. It's the story of Luke training, and again, having this link to his past, his father's past, training with Yoda. I mean, that was a really interesting, kind of neat thing. It was so weird to have this puppetry, but again, it's like Henson, Frank Oz. Like, I mean, you can't get better if you're going to go ahead and use puppets. So that Yoda was a fully realized character in puppet form, which was very, very cool. And his syntax and the way that he spoke. But the story was different. It was a very different, smaller story, whereas Star Wars, A New Hope, seemed very big. It was like this big galactic thing. So I guess that's, again, where, to me, yes, you get your full introduction of Boba Fett. Now, obviously, Boba Fett was in an animated sequence on the much maligned holiday special. Happy Life Day, everyone. So that part was cool. Boba Fett was a very interesting character, a very dark character. And by the way, my Boba Fett figure was something I had to send away for with cereal box UPCs, like proof of purchase, is how I got Boba Fett. And it did not have the shooting rocket, which apparently early iterations did have, and some children either lost or damaged their eyes. But do I really think The Empire Strikes Back is the best story? Not really. It just sets up more conflict. Luke loses his hand. Love Mark Hamill. Overacts the hell out of the losing his hand. No. But anyway, Empire Strikes Back, that's number 2. And it's really, really good, but not the best. So now we come to, and I just want to say, let's see. A New Hope was May 25th, 1977. Empire Strikes Back was May 21st, 1980. And now we have May 25th, 1983, Return of the Jedi. Now, immediately, to me, this has all the action you could hope for. And a much closer to fully realized Luke Skywalker. Right? All dressed in black. There's a little bit of a twist on the traditional Jedi robes, right? All black, showing up at Jabba's castle. I mean, obviously, the prologue scene, if you will, is, Leia going in disguise, getting in there. She's got her thermal detonator, getting that respect from Boba Fett. You get Jabba, that whole thing. She goes to save Han, whatever. But it really starts to pick up when Luke shows up. So that's where, just to jump ahead into the sequels, not the prequels, the sequels. I think this is where Disney and Rian Johnson in particular get a little bit of a heat. And I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with Rian Johnson's artistic vision and what he wanted to do with the characters. But everyone wanted to see even more of a culmination of badass master Jedi Luke Skywalker. Because when you think about it in the context of Return of the Jedi, he's able to take down basically all of Jabba's castle, take down the barge, saves everyone. He's a badass doing it with his green lightsaber, right? Since he lost his father's original lightsaber when he got his hand chopped off by said father. And he defeats Darth Vader in combat. I mean, come on. Luke's a badass. And I think that's what people really wanted, was a great battle Luke Skywalker. Just going nuts. Like, show off Luke Skywalker. Like, wielding every possible trick that you can imagine. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. But this is where you have the war stuff happening down on the forest moon of Endor. And the Ewoks. And I know everyone's like, oh, Ewoks, they're so silly. There's another way to sell, little toys to kids. Well, I have my stuffed Wicket the Ewok, first of all. No shame in that. But they were a primitive culture of, get this, if you read all the nerd books, there are 30 million Ewoks. 30 million. And they're not the only species on that planet. So 30 million little fluff balls with less than medieval weaponry. I mean, we're talking spears and rocks and slingshots, hammers. I mean, it's such a cool thing. The Ewoks are cool, man. They're badass. They're little warriors. I mean, they took it to the Empire. And they start using the helmets as drums in their celebration. I mean, badass, in my opinion. So whenever people, the Ewoks, or they talk about Jar Jar Binks, the Gungans, I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. I think they're fun. I think they're fun characters. And then obviously you have the full realization of the romance between Han and Leia, even though he thinks, you have only eyes for Luke, and no, silly, he's my brother, and that whole thing. Again, that was never his intention when these characters all came together. I don't know when he had that epiphany that, it just seemed like he was adding an element each movie. Okay, Luke is going to be the son of Darth Vader who is Anakin, and then we're going to add in, there's a sister too. And I know at the tail end of Luke's time on Dagobah with Yoda, and he's heading back to, try to save everyone on Bespin. And they say, no, there is another. So yeah, I know that Luke is kind of like shoved that in there, but I don't know. It just seemed like it was being made up as it went along. And my gosh, I mean, the guy created an entire universe. You can talk about the people who have done this. C.S. Lewis and Narnia, right? You have J.R.R. Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings. You have J.R.R. Martin with Game of Thrones / the Song of Ice and Fire. I get that backwards. And there's George Lucas. He created this long-standing legacy and mythology in a fully realized universe with fully fleshed out characters, despite the fact that he's a clumsy dialogue writer. His direction is faster, louder, whatever. I mean, very minimal in that regard. It's really about the process. And he puts it, he just makes B movies. And Lucas has always been like this. He's like, I make B, C-level movies with amazing technology, period. They're not meant to be so deeply analyzed. This isn't Gone with the Wind. This isn't The Godfather. This is just space people. These are space wizards with laser swords and laser blasters and spaceships and aliens. It ain't that deep. He added depth to it. Can't say that he didn't, because he did. And it became bigger and bigger as it was going along. But all the deep cuts into history and the real deep canon stuff, a lot of that is like Dave Filoni and all the, animated series, the Clone Wars, Rebels, stuff like that. But anyway, Lucas just, has this whole template, and a kid who's barely into his training defeats the second most powerful and evil man in all of the galaxy in single combat, and redeems him through this process. I mean, what a beautiful story. What a beautiful story of redemption. And that's where I wanted to have this episode to tie into the Obi Wan Kenobi series. Because, you think back to Luke saying, why didn't you tell me, Ben? And it's like, oh, well, it's from a certain point of view, all that kind of stuff. But you were always left wondering, what were you followed my father, the Clone Wars? There were a lot more Jedi. There was like a bunch of you. There's a whole Jedi Order. That was a fascinating tidbit. That always left for more to explore, which is intriguing. And a little piece of again, why Lucas's world building was, I think, beyond what he had even considered kind of as he was doing it. Everyone wanted to know what happened in the Clone Wars. Well, just wait. You'll find out. Excuse me, I take a sip of water here. So, the prequels. I will tell you that I was so excited for the prequels for a number of reasons. But as I just mentioned, total Star Wars dork. What happened in the past? How did these characters that we'd heard so much about become who they became later in life? Whether it's from Yoda being a recluse on a planet in the middle of nowhere. Whether it's Obi-Wan going by the name Ben and living out in the Dune Sea on Tatooine. And Anakin Skywalker. How did he fall? Now that we know that it wasn't so much that a young apprentice named Darth Vader killed Anakin, when you find out what really happened. And of course you do ask the question, because Luke asked Leia, do you remember your mother? So I'm so excited that these questions are going to be answered. And then I have people my own age complaining. So I mentioned the Ewoks. Oh, Jar Jar Binks, he's the most annoying character in the history of Star Wars. He sucks. The Gungans are stupid. What is this movie even? I don't get it. This is not my Star Wars. Newsflash. It very much is your Star Wars. If you remember that the first time you would have seen Star Wars, you were a child and not a grown person. See, I walked in to The Phantom Menace, Episode 1, Phantom Menace, with the mindset of a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old me going to see these movies. Right? That was the mindset that I had going in. Because if you look at it through the lens of an adult, you're cynical, you're a little world-weary, you've been through some stuff. You're going to look at the lens of idealism that exudes Lucas's work. And that's what happened. All the people my age, all the Gen Xers, who, and I quote an article that I read recently that said, Gen Xers have destroyed Star Wars. Interesting article. I'll find it. I'll post it. And it was kind of true. Completely crapping all over it. And saying, oh, the special effects, it's all digital, and all these complaints. Let me tell you something. Of all of the movies, Phantom Menace is one that I have watched probably close to amongst the most. Yeah, I think you'll be surprised where I actually rank it from a kind of an objective perspective, not just my own hee-hee. Okay. What is not to love about Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn? Come on. Awesome. Obviously, Natalie Portman's portrayal of Padme Amidala, solid throughout the whole series. You get this very early vision of Palpatine. And a breakout performance in many ways of a guy who was already on his way in Ewan McGregor. Absolutely embodying what had already been laid out by Sir Alec Guinness in his portrayal of Obi Wan Kenobi. It was through the prequel series that Obi Wan Kenobi, the old guy from my youth, jumped to the top of my list of favorite characters. Look, Luke's always my boy. It's kind of like Beatles Stone. Some people are like Luke, some people are like Han. For me, it's like Luke is 1, Obi-Wan is 2. Just, that's my opinion. That's how I see it. The Obi-Wan character, through Ewan McGregor, fleshed out that entire character so much that his story became important enough to warrant a series but how pivotal it was in the shaping